We continue our lecture, and next we are going to talk about different types of microorganisms and their main characteristics. The first group is called Prokaryotes. Prokaryotes from Latin means before nucleus. That means microorganisms from this group have no nucleus. And those are bacteria and archaea. The second group is called eukaryotes. Eukaryotes from Latin means true nucleus. Means microorganisms from this group have nucleus. And those are algae, fungi or fungi, and protozoa. And the last group is called viruses. As you see, they are acellular. Acellular from Latin means no cell. And that's true. We cannot call viruses cells because they have no metabolism. That means they cannot produce energy or reproduce by themselves. But viruses can reproduce, we know that, right? So how do they reproduce? To reproduce, they have to use metabolism of host cell. And any cell can be used by different viruses as a host cell. For example, human cells, animal cells, bacteria, fungi. Let's repeat it once again. So, prokaryotes, bacteria and archaea, have no nucleus, and all their genetic information is written down in one circular chromosome. It's located in well-defined area in cytoplasm. They also have no membrane-bound organelles. In contrast, eukaryotes, for example algae, fungi, protozoa, have nucleus. And also they have membrane-bound organelles in their cytoplasm. Next we'll talk about main characteristics of all groups of microorganisms. And let's start with bacteria. You already know that bacteria are prokaryotes. They have no nucleus. Also, you have to remember that bacteria reproduce by binary fission. What does it mean, binary fission? It means bacterium grows, doubles its mass, and then divides in half and produces two new cells. And those new cells do the same thing. They grow, double their mass, then divide in half and produce two new cells. So there is no mitosis, no meiosis here. Please remember, bacteria reproduce by binary fission. The other thing what you have to remember about bacteria is the fact that their cell walls are made of peptidoglycan. Very specific structure, only can be found in bacteria. And I repeat it for you, all bacterial cell walls are made of peptidoglycan. Bacteria are highly diverse. They can be in different shape, in different size. A lot of them can cause infections in humans, and some of those infections can be pretty serious. For example, toxic shock syndrome, typhoid fever, tuberculosis. But at the same time, you have to remember, bacteria make our life and existence possible because they keep the earth in balance. Archaea. Archaea discovered to be a separate group of microorganisms only in 1970s. Because they look like bacteria, they were placed in the same group with bacteria, and in 1970s suddenly scientists discovered that they have no peptidoglycan in their cell walls. So this is one of the characteristics you have to remember. Same as bacteria, they are prokaryotes. Also, they live in extreme environments. For example, hot environments, cold environments, acidic or high salt concentration environments. One group of Archaea makes natural gas, methane. And if you look at the surface of the swamp, very often you can see bubbling on that surface because Archaea produce natural gas. And the last characteristic you have to remember, no Archaea are human pathogens. Means Archaea do not cause infections in humans. Fungi or fungi. This group include mushrooms, molds, and yeasts. Yeasts are unicellular, means one-cell organisms. Molds and mushrooms are multicellular. Also, you have to remember that mushrooms, for example, have very specific structure in their cell walls. We call it chitin. Chitin is a cellulose-like structure that maintains shape of mushrooms. What else you have to remember about fungi? They are non-phototrophic, means they do not use sunlight as a source of energy. Second, they are scavengers, means they obtain nutrients from decomposing organic materials. Are they pathogens for humans? Yes, fungi can cause fungal infections in humans, and for healthy individuals, those infections usually are not dangerous or life-threatening. But they are life-threatening and extremely dangerous for immunologically compromised patients. For example, patients with AIDS or patients that go through chemotherapy. Protozoa is the next group. Protozoa are eukaryotes. Also, you have to remember that they are unicellular, one-cell organism, unicellular. Most protozoa are motile, means can move, and for the movements they can use pseudopods, cilia, or flagella. Do they cause infections in humans? Yes, they do. And some of those infections are extremely dangerous. As an example, I can give you malaria or African sleeping sickness. Just those two protozoal infections kill millions of people every year. Viruses. Viruses are not cells. And you already know we cannot call them cells because they have no metabolism. Means they do not produce energy and cannot reproduce by themselves. In the structure of each virus, there is a center. It's called core of the virus. In the core, there's always amino acid in form of DNA or RNA. This core is covered with a protein coat. The layer is made of proteins. Some viruses on the top of the protein coat have one additional layer. We call it an envelope. It's made of lipids, and if virus has an envelope, we call it enveloped virus. If virus doesn't have an envelope, we call it unenveloped or naked. Of course, viruses cause infections in humans, and some of those infections are extremely dangerous. As an example, we can use smallpox, poliomyelitis, yellow fever, including AIDS. The next group is multicellular animal parasites, and those are worms, or we call them helminths. You have to know this term for your exam. So, helminths are eukaryotes. A lot of them are multicellular and macroscopic. For example, tapeworm can reach up to 30 feet long. So the question is, why do we study helminths in microbiology? Because helminths cause infectious diseases in humans. And this semester we're going to talk about two groups of helminths, and those are flat worms, for example tapeworm, and round worms, for example hookworms.